Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to have a go at making the memory book, but I think I'm going to have to do it in two parts. So I'm going to aim to make this memory book. It's called Memories to Cherish, Complete My Memory Book Die Set. And I'll quickly give you a quick look at the dies. So you actually get, let me just move this up there. You actually get 2 A4 sheets of dies, and this was this was released on Create and Craft. So this was brought out, I believe it was birthday week in 2022. And it was recently featured on Create and Craft, and Jodie made my sample, which was the bees, and it was very colourful and just a very uplifting contrast of colours, if you like. So I'm going to use similar colours again today. I am going to use a paper pad that already has decorative elements, and it was literally, it's the most simplest way of putting it together once you've got a matching paper pad, because there are certain paper pads where you can actually buy like the inserts that go into cards. You've got decorative elements, embellishments, card kits. So there is a range that I tend to use mainly, and it is the Paper Boutique range. And at the moment, so obviously I'm going to be doing it in two parts. So I'll do the construction of the memory book first, and then the second part will be working on each page. But I'm going to keep it really basic with only a couple of flips and flaps. Just for anybody that might be new to memory book making and who may have picked up this die set. So it just kind of, I'm going to do it continuously. I'm not going to put breaks in. I'm not going to fast forward anything. So if you did want to craft along, you can. So the paper pad I will be using is, I've used up most of this for this book. But it's called the Paper Boutique Springtime Travel, and I'm using the decorative paper pad and I'm using the Essentials topper pad, and it is so beautiful. As you can see, there's so many elements in this that you can use, which is what I've done. So let's crack on and get the construction of the book made. And like I say, it is the most simplest of books to work with. Honestly, you will really thoroughly enjoy it. So the size that I'm using is the third one down. So you've got a huge one here on this side. There is, in total, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sized books that you can actually make from this set. There is also a waterfall die on here, a couple of large sentiments and a smaller one. You've got the spine in this one, you've got poly tabs, you've got tags, you've got a ribbon slider, you've got debossed sentiments also, and you've got the tabs that go on the poly tabs, basically just decorative elements. So this is the size book I'm using. It's the third one down, which is an ideal size to use because you can actually get 2 sheets out of 1 A4 piece of card. So that's basically 1 page, and I am using, when I make the book, I will be doing it so that you have a nice finish on both sides of the page. So I'm doing a 4-page book, and then you've got your front and your back. So in total you will need 6 A4 sheets to just construct the book. And then obviously as you decorate, if you're putting flips and flaps in, if you're putting pockets in, that will take a few more sheets. And then on top of that, obviously you've got your decorative papers that you can use, so it will be additional. But for the main basic book, you need 6 A4 sheets if you're doing a 4-page book. So I can refer back to these as we go along if I need to. So hopefully you've been able to buy this memory book. Out of all the memory books, this is probably one of the memory books that is the most practical in terms of making a box, because it's a large rectangle. You basically have a lot more space to play with. There aren't any awkward shapes or anything like that. It's a bog standard large rectangle book. Okay, so for this, let me bring in what I've cut out already. So when you lay your card, I've used an A4 machine, but basically when you have your, let's move these out the way so it doesn't confuse you. So this is an A4 sheet here, and basically when you lay your die on the sheet, A4 sheet, if you lay it like that, there is one side that doesn't have a cutting edge, and that's the side that you need to be able to make your front and your back. So you have, when you cut it out, you basically place your die as it is on this sheet, and then whichever way, I mean, you can do it that way, you can do it this way. I'm left-handed, so I prefer to have my sheets this way. So you butt it up right up against the edge, and then you cut it, and it gives you roughly, let's have a quick look, it should leave you with roughly 2/3, 2 3/4 of an inch. Sorry, 1 3/4 of an inch. So it's the perfect size for me to be able to use the spine for a 4-page book. So let's get started. So what I need for this book is my front. So this will be my front, and then back. There should be another sheet if I can find it. There it is. Right, so that's your 4 sheets for your front and back. You will need to cut these down, and I'll probably do that on 2 of them now. And then the rest of them I've basically cut to size. I've just basically cut this section off from each of these. So in total here we have 8 pages, because they're going to basically, they're going to go together like this, and then they're going to glue onto the spine. So what I need to do is, from these 2, I need to cut 2 of these, because we only need the spine section on 2 pages. So let me just bring my, without knocking anything, let me just bring in my trusted caterpillar. So all I'm basically doing, and I hope you can see this, is butting it up right up against here so I know it's level, and then I'm gonna make sure this first score line here is where I place my cut. So that looks okay to me, and I'm just gonna cut it down. I'm going to do the same again on another one. So you're basically only left with 2 pages that have the long panels for your spine. So again, I'm just going to butt it up, make sure it's level, move this out the way, make sure it's level, and then trim those. You can keep these sections, you can cut your tabs out of these, your pulley tabs. So don't throw anything, to any scraps that you have, don't throw anything away just yet, because it might come in handy. So this is going to be my, so if this is my front page, this is basically going to back up to here, and it will all align perfectly all these pages, and that's what's great about memory book dies, because it takes all the fuss out of having to measure and make sure everything is correct. So hopefully this is making sense to you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in a mini scoreboard, because this is only a mini, it's not a very big book. And all I am going to do is butt everything up against the lines, and I'm just going to score just where that score line is. I'm just going to give it a further score. Do the same with this one, exactly in the same place. That might be a little bit longer actually, there we go. So in exactly the same place, you score again. There we go. So then all you need to do is, I'm going to use my trusted precision glide folder. I don't want to damage the card. So all you do is just burnish your lines. And by the way, I'm using 250 GSM card. I should have said that at the beginning. I'm using 250 GSM card. Normally I would use 300, but as I'm just doing this for video purposes, I thought I would use this. So as you can see, it butts up really nicely once you put it all together, which is exactly the size, the width that you want for this book. Now, when you cut out, let me just bring this back in. When you cut out the spine, you'll need, if you make a 4-page book, you will need 2 of these. And you basically cut it to size. So for this memory book, because the spine is, I believe it's just over 4 inches. Yeah, just a tad over 4 inches. So when you cut the 2 pieces out for your spine, you just need to measure it along the side of your spine and just basically cut it to size, and then you can just chamfer the edges. So that's basically the size you're going to need, and you're just going to trim it along here. Just make sure your line is even when you cut that. So let's put this back. So I've already done a spine, but I'm going to do one with you now. So this is one side of the spine that I've done, if you can see that. And basically all it is you get your spine gives you your score lines already. So all you are doing is, you'll see 2 lines that are smaller, and then you've got a bigger section here. So these are the sections that are going to create your spine for the page basically. So all you do is fold it along those lines, give it a good burnish. You can, for the spine, you can use 250, but it is actually recommended that you use a 216 GSM card, because it allows your pages to move more freely. So it's basically what I'm doing here. This is a mountain fold, and then I'm just basically making sure that everything creases well. Do the same again on this side, and then just make sure that it creases well. Just give it another burnish. Do both sides, because it gives your spine some movement when you break the fibres by burnishing. for the spine, for each of these, what you can do is use red liner tape, but I'm actually going to go with Nouveau Deluxe for this. Nouveau Deluxe is the best glue on the market, and I'm not saying that because I'm a DT member. I'm saying it because even when I wasn't a DT member, there isn't a glue that I liked that was like this. So I'm just going to glue both of them together now, because while I'm squeezing and pressing one down, the other one can go tacky. And obviously if you get glue on your mat, just clean it as you go along so you don't end up ruining your pages or anything. So all I'm doing is basically pressing against both sides to allow it to adhere basically. And then do the same again on this side. And because this glue is really good quality, it grabs quick. You do have some wriggle room, but it's such a good glue. I totally wholeheartedly recommend buying the Nouveau Deluxe. I believe it's available on the Tonic website. So I'm just going along and basically helping the adhesion, if you like, of the spine. So then once that is done, just look over on the back, make sure it's all joined together. I'm just going to again give it another burnish, because I find when you do this, it helps your pages move a bit more freely. The more movement it has, the better it is for whoever you're making this memory book for, to be able to turn the pages. So now I have two, and all I'm going to do is trim this down. So I'll just bring in my caterpillar again. So what you can see here is I've marked some of my lines here. So basically this is 4 1/4 inches long. So all I'm going to do is chop this at 4 1/4 inches. You won't need that bit. So just double check, make sure everything is lined up well. Perfect. And just make sure these also. So I'm going to chamfer that edge in a second, but it's just making sure that your spine is exactly correct, which mine is. Yeah. So all I'm going to do is chamfer this edge. And then we can move this out of the way. So now it's literally a case of applying glue onto here. So you've got your chamfered sides here, like so. So I'm just going to glue those two sections together. That gives an even gap between your pages. And then I'm just going to apply some glue. When you make memory books, it's a good idea to use wet glue and not use red liner tape, because you want your memory book to arrive to the recipient in one piece, and it also makes sure that it lasts a long time. So the best glue for this is your Nouveau Deluxe. So I'm just pressing it down now that everything is even. And then once all that is glued together, you then have your spine. That's your spine. And don't worry if it doesn't look neat. You just need to make sure everything lines up as it does on here. As you can see, everything is exactly measured out perfectly on both sides. Everything is done evenly. So then what we do is we bring in, so this is the bit where I need to just double check and make sure everything lines up. It perfectly lines up, as you can see. So all we are going to do is make sure your neat side is facing outwards and your rough side is on the inside. I'm not going to glue these together just yet, but I'm going to apply glue. I'm just going to apply some glue onto the back of my spine, and this is where you just need to make sure you put enough glue on and you know it's stuck down well. And then just going to bring it up to this and just make sure everything gets glued down well, making sure that all the lines are aligned. You might have a little bit sticking out. If you do, just move it along. But you can also trim down just that bit if you need to. But I'm not going to worry about that too much because I've got this side obviously, this side to obviously glue down. And even if there is a slight gap, that's nothing to worry about, because you're going to cover this anyway. You can cover it with another sheet if you want, or your decorative paper. So all I'm going to do now is apply glue to the outside of this section here. Make sure you apply plenty of glue. And then again, make sure your nice side is on the outside, and then I'm just going to adhere these two sections together like so. And just push it against with your, like push it with your fingers against each section, because then you know everything is lined well. And then turn it over, give it a good squeeze like so. You can use your precision glide tool as well to help everything adhere well. There we go. So now, as we have the two sides put together with the spine, all we are going to do now, I did think about doing internal pockets, but I'm not going to for this book. And then basically all you are going to do is butt it up to the outside edge and make sure everything aligns, and then you'll be gluing that down. That's why we chopped off the spine from this section, because we didn't need that. So all we are doing is basically going to apply some glue, and this is now going to be a repeated process as we go along and attach our pages and do our back page as well. Just make sure when you're doing your pages, you take the glue right up against the edge. Because that will ensure that your pages won't fall apart or create any gaps. And don't forget, obviously, if it's if you're giving it to someone, just remember it is a book that's going to get handled. So I'm just going to butt that up against the page, making sure everything is aligned before I then stick everything down. So that is your front page done, and we're just going to repeat the same process just going to repeat the same process on this side. Butt it up right against the page. Make sure everything is aligned. Let's try that again. And then just press everything down. There we go, and that creates your front and your back. So now what we're going to do is attach all the pages exactly the same way. So what I tend to do is when I'm making a memory book, although I attach the pages back in, I then work on my mats and my layers. So it's absolutely fine to glue your pages in first, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So where the spine is, it's just making sure everything aligns. So when your book is standing up, everything sits perfectly at the bottom. So again, make sure when you're putting your glue on, just make sure that, actually I'll come back to that bit. Just make sure that everything aligns and you're using the nice side on the outside rather than the rough edge. So all I'm going to do is press my spine in. Just make sure everything aligns when you do this. I can see my page has moved slightly. And this is why it's good to use lower weight card like 216 GSM for the spine, because it allows you to be able to move your page. So we're going to do the same again, but this time I'm going to apply glue to the whole page. Doesn't want to come out now. Let's try that again. I think it's time to get another glue out because this one doesn't want to come out. Bear with me. Let me see if I can use my pokey tool to get this glue out. Bear with me, guys. Okay, so let's try that again. There we go. There must be a blockage or something because it's stopping the glue from coming through. But if we have to open another bottle, so be it. Seems to be. Okay, so So then again, the nice side goes onto here. So the nice side will face outwards always. Your rough side goes on the inside. And then you just press it down. And that's your first page inside your book. And again, like I said, it has to be level, which mine is. So when I go to put it down, it's level. If that makes sense. So, right, let's do the next page. This blockage is going to annoy me now. Let's try that again. Get so much glue on my fingers. So again, let's butt this up against the spine, making sure everything is level. And then press it down. Again, get another page. And on this page, you're going to apply all your glue. And again, just make sure everything butts up well, the edges meet, and when they do, press it down. So that's your second page in. So the next one, let's make sure we squeeze this bit in. There we go. So right, now the next one. Make sure you put it in, you align it up against the spine, looking good, and then press down. See, because I'm using a 250 GSM card, it's a little bit thicker than 216. So this is why mine is taking a little bit longer to adhere, because it's quite thick and it wants to bounce off. So pulling all the glue off my fingers. Right, so that again, your nice side goes on the outside and your rough side is on the inside. We're gonna again put some more glue on. Make sure you butt it up against the edge of the page, and then you can stick it down. That's another page done. So then the last page, we're nearly there, we're nearly there. Making memory books isn't complicated, especially when you have the die set from Tonic. Especially nowadays, a lot of the memory books, they actually come with the spine. So it's just so much easier. So make sure it's aligned, which it is, and then press down. What I haven't done on this one today is I haven't chamfered the edges of each section, which I would normally do just to give it a bit more, make it a bit more flexible. So that's the last one. Now we're just going to apply glue to our last page. Butt it up against your page, make sure everything is aligned, and then press down. Right, so say if you wanted to put this in the post, you could. It might be a thicker package, like a large letter, but you can actually fold it down and it goes in. It will go into an A5 size envelope, obviously padded of course, but then once you've added your pages in, you could just make books like this, plain books like this, to sell if you wanted to. Tonic don't say that you can't sell, because you can. So that is my pages, my spine, lots of glue. So that is all my pages done, and my spine, my front and my back. So that's all done. And then hopefully when you come back, we will work and get the rest of it done. See you in the next video. Take care, guys.